welcome back to the nationally syndicated Price of Business Show. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business, and love having on the program Jason Rory. He is with Triad InfoSec, and he brings so much to every segment. He is a true cybersecurity authority with a very unique background, and he's talked about it before, but interestingly, I recently had listeners who asked more about why you got into cybersecurity, which, I saw that and I said, well, if he became an auto racer, that, is odd enough for someone to do, or maybe even a mortician, but why cybersecurity? I guess, Jason, it's because of the fact that, it's a field that was not well known 20, 30 years ago, and all of a sudden exploded on the scene. They may want to know how prophetic you were and seeing how things were going to unfold. Talk a little bit about how you ended up doing what you do, Jason Rory.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, Kevin, thank you for having me back. So how did I get into cybersecurity? So great question. I think it's honestly deep-rooted in my military background. So, I served in the U.S. Navy. I had a top secret security clearance, so I, helped secure communications from our ship, and that really kind of set me on my path. But in the beginning of my career, it was an IT journey because, as you mentioned, cybersecurity wasn't really a thing that far back. Not to show my age, but it really wasn't. So I spent a long time in IT infrastructure, and as security became more and more important, my career kind of took me down that path because I always had a passion for consulting, for small and medium-sized businesses and help protect them. I think, that's traits of mine coming through from the military. So with cybersecurity, I found that way to continue to serve and protect, and that's ultimately what took me from IT infrastructure into cybersecurity is, I noticed a way to protect these small and medium-sized businesses from the threats that are out there. And ultimately that drove me into cybersecurity and did a lot of operational side of cyber, early in the career once I made the change from IT to cyber, and now found my way into cyber compliance and more cyber leadership for organizations, making sure that, they're not only compliant, but they're actually more secure. So, helping them from a strategic advisory and leadership, I feel is still continuing to protect them, especially the ones that are in, regulated industries where they're holding a lot of very sensitive data. So they're a huge target, being small, but being sensitive as well. So it's, just kind of my mission to continue to protect the small and medium-sized business.
Yeah, I love that. And I know people in your field over the years, and many of them went straight into the cybersecurity space, and they have told me they regretted not learning the IT part first because you really don't understand what needs to be protected until you've been, really had your hands dirty in that area. And, really like almost everything that needs to be treated, be it humans or machines, the more holistic and comprehensive one can be, obviously the better. I would say that's part of your story, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. My career, in IT and understanding, endpoints, servers, networks, firewalls, I did it for a very long time, on a global scale. So having that background absolutely, helps me in this industry with cyber, knowing the moving parts of an IT network and where vulnerabilities can lie, where risk, can develop. So absolutely having an IT background, I think, is essential, to be successful in the cybersecurity world.
Yeah, very good. All right. Let's get into our topic today. It's a good one. Cybersecurity for the everyday business. Let's face it, not all of us are, Fox News, utterly obliterated by cybersecurity issues, or even law enforcement agencies. I was saying, wow, you talked about chutzpah, going after, taking out law enforcement agencies, but all of us have a business. All of us are really vulnerable with our business. but, we really don't have the resources to do what the big boys do, but that's not an excuse for doing nothing.
Oh, absolutely. It's not, and there's a saying out there that I love. It's, you're not too small to be hacked. You're just too small to make the news. So if you really think about that, and, there's some very, staggering statistics out there when it comes to the sheer amount of attacks that are targeted towards small businesses, how many of those attacks actually materialize into a breach or an incident. Those numbers are staggering, but you don't hear about that, because they're affecting, these mom and pop businesses that, again, they're just not big enough to make the news. So that also leads to, kind of the broken mindset, because if you don't hear about these stories and you are a small business, then you think that you don't have anything the bad guys would want. And I've probably said this a few times before, but that is the case, and that's what the bad guys bank on, is you thinking it's not going to happen, so you let your guard down, or you don't put a guard up to begin with. So what we want to talk about today are 7 things that you can do to build a wall of protection from these threats and from these bad actors that, yes, essentially don't break the bank. Some are even free.
Yeah, and I think it's important for people to remember that they send, you're right. There's nothing nobody wants except for the owner of that of that data, and so it really is like holding someone important hostage. And so that should immediately eliminate your, belief of not me. Why me? No one would get me.
Yeah, I mean, the way I explain to people is, if I were to come into your office and take all of your computer systems out of your office, could you continue to operate? Chances are that the answer is no. Well, that's what the bad guys do, especially if it's a ransomware scenario. I mean, they render the computers useless, so it's like they're not there. So if those computer systems are important to operating the business, then yes, you have something that these bad actors want to get their hands on, because ultimately they feel like if they can get their hands on it, they're going to get paid for you to get access back. And that's how they make their money. And it's such a big business. For those who don't know, according to the research out there, that by 2025, the cybercrime industry will be a 9.5 trillion with a T dollar industry.
Wow. That's incredible. Talk then a little bit about it. Where do you begin with this? You're part of the problem, and this is why it's so important and valuable that we have this segment with you, because, it's hard for someone to approach someone with the expertise that you have without worrying that, oh my God, what's the bill going to be? So, you're really giving them a leg up. And, and part of the idea is not only wanting to help business, and I know that is one of your true passions, but also, helping businesses grow to where they get to the point where they really shouldn't be in business without someone like you in the corner.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a need for a starting point, and I think the 7 things that I'll cover here shortly are just some key things that need to be done. And again, it's not that heavy of a lift to implement these things. You just have to just take action. You have to do it, and then just maintain it. So it's not a huge lift, but as you grow and things scale, then yes, it may make sense to have someone, come in and help, manage these type activities.
Yeah, absolutely. So give us a step-by-steps.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. So one of the 7, and I will just put this out here. This is actually from Microsoft, the things that I'm about to cover. So according to them, the 7 things that we'll touch on briefly will protect you from 98% of the attacks that are out there. This is per Microsoft. So I like to say that so that people don't think I just made it up. So the first one, user awareness training. It is critical. It is probably, honestly, in my opinion, one of the most, if not the top, critical thing you can do within your organization is train your people, build that human firewall. There's a lot of great training programs that are out there that your IT staff or your IT provider, if you outsource, can provide you. They can help manage it. It's just a matter of getting it done on a regular basis, having the consistency and having the management to see trends, see potential repeat offenders so they can maybe get more one-on-one training. Because what you have to realize, if you take the business and all the time and effort you've spent building that business, it could potentially be harmed by one click of the mouse. So we want to make sure that the users on your staff are trained. And a little bit of a money-saving tip, cyber101.com. Again, cyber101.com is free cybersecurity awareness training. Amazon also has some really great awareness training. There's a lot of free training out there. YouTube. So there's really no excuse to not train your people, and it's that critical that it needs to be done. So there's a couple of tips there. The second one is having antivirus, or now, which is of a new age behavioral analysis style antivirus that can detect abnormalities or malicious activity in real time and actually take logical action against that to potentially isolate the computer from the rest of the network if it detects something it doesn't like. So it sounds very AI driven. A lot of it is AI driven now. Yes, 100%. So that allows it, to see, okay, this link was clicked, this file was downloaded, that file is malicious, it has potential to do X, Y, and Z to the computer. So without any human intervention, I'm going to take action as the software and, again, like isolate the machine off the network logically. So therefore, if something does happen, it doesn't have the ability to spread. And then it will, obviously alert your IT guys, help desk, whatever your support situation is. So having software out there, and there's a ton, Microsoft, Defender is built into Windows, which is okay. There's Defender for Endpoint, which is more an advanced version. There's SentinelOne, which is a personal favorite of mine. There's a lot out there. So I would, ask your IT company, ask your IT guys. Most likely 9.5 times out of 10, you already have this. The next one is apply least privilege. So if you think about least privilege methodology, it's simply don't give people access to more than they need to do their job. So yes, it can be a pain if someone doesn't have access to something and you have to put in a request to IT to grant them, but that is the proper way to do it. Don't just give everybody administrative control just to get past the roadblocks of access permissions. So just
last thing you want to do is try to remember who you gave what to.
Yeah.
Especially if that person is no longer working with your organization. It's like,
that's another one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's another big issue is having, old accounts that are still out there and active that weren't disabled, kind of through a process of when a person is no longer employed with your company, voluntary or involuntary. There should be a process to make sure that that account is disabled so it doesn't have access to anything, and definitely not access to anything is if you gave that person administrative access. Like I said, I've been into a lot of businesses.
Does it make sense? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying I've just been into a lot of businesses where they did that. Is everybody was an administrator over everything, so they didn't have as many issues day to day operating, and it's just obviously not the smart thing to do.
Yeah, from a hygiene perspective, not at all.
Exactly.
So does it make sense to rescind those rights after they're doing whatever that was for that moment? Here, you have it now, and then, you're done, and then you remove those rights.
Yes. Yeah. There's privileged access management, identity access management. There's a ton of tools out there that will do just that and do it in an automated fashion, and those are amazing tools. That way, no one, as they operate just normal day-to-day tasks, no one has a administrator rights, during those normal activities, right? If they come across an activity that requires administrative access, their account is elevated to be able to execute that task. And then when the task is complete, yes, then it will bring the privileges back down to a normal user. That's the most secure way to do it, is through those kind of identity management, privileged access type tools. That is more of an investment. So if we're talking on a budget, just the best rule of thumb is to have everybody a standard user account. No one is in the administrators group. And if there is something that comes up that requires administrative access to execute, or someone needs access to a folder that they can't get into, then they contact IT. IT grants or executes whatever is needed with their credentials with your administrator, and then when they're done, that's it. And then the user is back to operating as a normal standard user.
Very good. Been about to play beat the clock. Anything else for us?
Yeah, just to run through the other four just really quick, and mostly just self-explanatory. So multi-factor authentication, I'm sure at this point everybody knows what that is. Biggest thing is enable it everywhere you go in your personal and your professional life. If it has the ability to be turned on, please turn it on. Patch your systems. If you get the notification pop up that you have Windows updates or Chrome updates or Adobe updates, please apply those, because those, I know they can be annoying, but they're needed to fix vulnerabilities in the software before the bad actors can get to them. Next to last, backups, self-explanatory. Make sure you're backing up your data. Have it in at least two locations, just in case something happens. You can always get a copy of your data one way or the other. Lastly, email protection is just as it is. Spam filtering, most Office 365, Google Workspace, they're doing a much better job that they have historically on protecting mailboxes from phishing and spam. There is more advanced ones out there, but if things come in, you can always just right click and report as junk or block. So just, management of the email so you can minimize the amount of spam and phishing that comes into your inbox will help reduce the likelihood of a phishing email working. Yeah.
Very good. But I think it's important to remind the listener that it's a war of escalation, isn't it? It's not like the whatever nefariousness these people are doing now, this is all we're going to do. They're constantly thinking of the next thing to do, and they get more sophisticated. Those phishing emails look more and more like a real PayPal or Neiman Marcus or whatever, the brand is. It's a continued war of escalation.
It is, and we had an episode, early when I started, about AI and some of the advanced threats. So definitely go back and listen to that to learn more about, the constant battle and the things that I've mentioned here. They need to become a living, breathing, operational thing. This is the way you need to operate your business. You need to make sure these things are implemented, they're tested, they continuously work, they're upgraded, all things that are needed to do to keep that likelihood of an incident happening.
Yeah, very, very important. Man, I'm so glad we have a resource like you available, and I encourage people to learn more about Jason's work. Jason Rory, give us the best website for people to get more information.
Absolutely. Best website is triadinfosec.io. So triadinfosec.io is the website. You can find me on LinkedIn. Jason Rory is my handle. Please reach out if you have any questions, concerns. I'd love to help.
Thank you so much, Jason. That was very good, very helpful. Really an outstanding primer on, what's next. Frankly, obviously you can't do it all in a show like this. In addition to that, you need more protection more than likely than what we discussed. But I bet many, many businesses, maybe even a majority, particularly smaller ones, aren't doing a fraction of what you covered today. So thanks so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me as always, and look forward to continuing to help businesses be more safe.
Yeah, I look forward to our next segment too. I am Kevin Price. You are listening to the nationally syndicated Price of Business Show. Stay tuned for more after this.